proud of you,
And
bro.
if you got offended, that's a trigger. Go figure out why the fuck you offended and leave us alone. Shit. Welcome, welcome.
Back, man.
What's up, brother?
Hey, man, we back in the old digs, old format. We
Back caving it.
like a mug.
How you been feeling?
I can't complain, man. Tired, man.
Running around.
Yeah, kicking last night.
How was that? How was the gig?
It was wild, man. Watching the people do what the people do.
You want to share that?
Oh no, I don't. Well, I'm a share it in a way that makes sense. So
Okay.
that won't get us, you know. So I'm in the spot last night, and this spot is pretty progressive, man. It's a lot, really diverse, open format, really diverse crowd. So it was a dude, older gentleman, in there, and he obviously, man, intoxicated beyond, you know, good. He's falling into people and grabbing people, just generally harassing and harshing up the whole vibe in there.
Wasted.
What I mean, like fried.
Okay.
I mean, he could barely stand up, but he was dancing, jumping around, humping the floor, just out of control, dog. That.
Okay.
He was you know, chubby dude, you know, white dude. So anyway, the bartender tells the security, is just one security guy, because it's not that kind of spot.
Security, black or white?
Young, I don't know if he could have been Latin, black,
Okay.
Let's just say black.
Non-white.
Non-white, yeah, young dude. He more is sitting there checking IDs than he is security, really.
Gotcha.
So, you know, he comes over and he's like telling him, you know, I couldn't hear because, you know, I'm elevated above, so I really couldn't hear, but I could see that he's like, you know, you need to go, right? You doing too much.
Yeah.
So you know, you start to escort him out. He was pulling away, like, no. You can see him just.
Hold on for a second, dog. The way you shook your head.
That's exactly what he was doing, dog.
It was a moist shake.
It was. And now you what I'm saying. Now you follow the story.
Was this a straight dude?
Look, I don't know what his sexual orientation was, but
he wasn't straight.
If I had to guess, if I had to,
you don't know what he is. You just know he wasn't straight.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't want to say he's straight.
And that is the point of the whole story, dog. This dude was snatching away from security.
How was he snatching?
Like he was, the guy was
Get
trying
off
to pull
me.
him. He was like, no, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. And he, you know.
Hold on, how did he say no?
No, he was snatching away from security.
Oh, okay.
While they was trying. So they started to get a little more, or it was just one dude, started to give a little more aggressive and pull him. And he was pulling away, you know how you pull away like you drop like like he protesting. And he pulling away, dog. He sprawled out on the floor. He's acting a complete ass in there, right? And so some of the other people that were there immediately took his side as if they didn't just see him harass 15 people in there, right? I mean, I'm talking grabbing. I'm talking coming up behind people dancing, you know, just completely out of control, dog.
So he was occupying way more space than he should have.
Than anybody should have. And they were like, leave it, what are you doing? Stop it. And they telling the security dude, stop it, leave him alone, stop it. And make a long story short, he never left the club. He continued to do what he was doing until he literally like sat in a corner and kind of was in like a stupor. Like he just kind of sat in the corner until he decided to stumble on out the club, man.
So do you think it was the reactions of the crowd that kind of changed the doorman's reaction?
I think the door dude, it seemed like that he was keenly aware that if this escalates, it's not going to be good for him. So he immediately acquiesced to that dude because he understood what was happening. He understood that this dude, because of probably conversation we're about to have, has the right to do anything he wants to do without any accountability at all, because he can always flip it to say that they're treating him like this because of who he is, not because of his actions. And it was because it was other. I mean, it's all kinds of people in there, dog. Mm-hmm. It's black, white, straight, gay, Latin. I mean, anything you want to see in there is in there, right? So why would this? I mean, it's just wild that behavior in any other group of people would not be tolerated. Even women. I've seen women get thrown out of the club in very aggressive ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this dude, he was completely out of control, dude.
So, how did you feel when you saw it?
I was a combination of, because we've been doing this a while, and I done seen cats get kicked out of clubs in all kinds of different ways, right? For much less. I done seen them get kicked out of club because they were talking to a woman and a woman didn't want them talking to them. So she went and told security and they put them out, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen them, of course you've seen the fight and the beginnings of a fight, the altercations. I've seen the bumping, I've seen the drunken, out of control. I've seen it all, man. But there always seems to be a different level of threat, right? Depending on who is the perpetrator. Even though the harassment and just the general assholeness of it all is the exact same. I remember one time, dog, same spot a few weeks ago. Love the spot, man. Nothing against the spot at all. I love it. It was an older, white dude, right? It was a group of black girls. They looked pretty young. And it was an older white, and he was felt like that he could just dance up on them, you know what I'm saying? And they were kind of like, shit, what you doing? You know what I'm saying? But he continued to try to on each of them, behind them. I mean, he was super but he wasn't doing that to nobody else. Until I said, dude, I cut down the music, you gotta chill. You gotta chill. Mm. And he kind of looked up at me shocked, and then he kind of slithered away. But I was like, man, I guess, dog, the overall point that society, how it operates and the hierarchy of it translates into nightlife the same way it translates into workplaces, into whatever other education, school, whatever other ecosystem that there is. The hierarchy of how it's set up at this point translates.
Okay. So you used the word translate.
That was nice how that happened.
Yeah, I like that. That was kind of hard.
Yeah, it was.
So we watched the Dave Chappelle special.
Yeah, we did.
Right? What'd you think about it first off?
It was, Dave Chappelle, man, the best to do it.
Okay. I just wanted to I wanted to create a baseline.
Yeah.
I thought the shit was brilliant too.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a better word for brilliant.
Yeah. As is, and I've been trying to describe him in a musical way.
Yeah.
He's like jazz for comedy.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, dog.
Yeah. And he's brilliant in the way that jazz is, and that so there are jazz is like the swing jazz and it's very sort of mechanical, not mechanical, very technical jazz areas. But then there are people who just take all of that technical prowess and flip it on his head to where it's something completely different.
Yeah, and he's having, I feel like, multiple conversations.
Yeah. Exactly.
in one bit,
Exactly.
in one story, and
they're
depending
all
on
connected.
who you are,
Yeah.
you're gonna focus on or translate what he's saying or what part of that story he's saying into
Right.
something that kind of like reflects you and where you are at some
Right.
point. So if he's mentioning something about the gay community,
Right.
they're going to translate that
Yeah.
into, oh, well, he's being anti this or
Right.
anti that. And that's
Right.
not to say that all gay people are translating that.
Right.
Or are you talking about a trans person?
Right.
They're translating.
Right.
And as I was watching him, not him, when I was watching people's reaction
Yeah.
to him,
Yeah.
I was trying to see where in my life I translate in that way.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times you and I were having a conversation a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And we were talking about some money related shit.
Right. Right.
And depending on what we're talking about, we're translating what that other person is saying
Right.
into something else.
Right.
And sometimes we have to stop and say, that's not what I mean.
Right.
But if you think that's what I mean,
Right.
let's talk about why you think that's what that means.
Right. Right.
It requires a level of discourse
Yeah.
in order to get to an understanding.
Yep.
Because we're all translating.
Right.
The transes are translating, the gays are translating, the blacks, the women,
Yeah.
the women's and the men's.
Yeah.
Everybody's translating.
Yeah.
And we do it, I especially do it in my relationship.
Yeah.
Because like somebody will say some shit or not say some shit.
Right.
And I'll take that and translate that into my interpretation of what they're trying to say or
Right.
what they're not trying to say. What I think is real concerning for me now, man, is just how there's my translation is the truth.
Break that down, dog.
So it doesn't matter what you say. What matters is how I'm translating it.
Right.
So he didn't say not one point in time in that show explicitly what people are saying he means.
Right.
But
Right.
yet and still, they get to translate it. They get to walk, and their translation actually becomes the truth, not what he said.
Right. Right.
How can a trans person watch what Dave Chappelle said and then translate that into he doesn't want rights for me? He doesn't respect my humanity. He
Right.
doesn't want me to be alive.
Right.
And if that is how you translate that,
Right.
what part of your translation do you actually take responsibility for?
Yeah. Yeah. Even the point that that I've heard, some people say that like they translate that to violence, like he is advocating for violence in these communities. And that's, I don't even know. I don't know how, but again, dog, some people, right, in these arenas, they have to, that's their job. Right?
Yeah.
So they have to
Yep.
find if there's a crumb of something that they can expound on and translate, they're gonna do that because that's gonna get them views and likes and work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's their
And that's a
job.
big thing. Like there's an industry
Exactly.
around this kind of
Exactly.
discourse or lack thereof.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So they have to find out how they're gonna land on the other. I've read articles that, that I'm like, I didn't even see this in the special. I didn't even know how they got to, and it's so poorly translated that it's obvious that you are desperately trying to find something that you can oppose this with. Because now people in that can come to you and pay you money for your opinion, right? And that's what it boils down to. It's an opinion.
But how do you, so I feel there are certain things that automatically translate into something else that you didn't say. I feel when it got to do with this political shit.
Right. Yeah.
Feel got to do with religious shit.
Yep.
Which are basically becoming the same thing
Yep.
now for the most part.
Yep.
When it comes to this gender shit.
Yep.
And when it comes to this sexual orientation shit.
Yep.
Like those, and this is in one-to-one conversation.
Right.
Not somebody trying to make some money.
Right.
Trying to, trying to connect to get a bag.
Yeah.
This is somebody you're sitting down with and having a conversation. And let's say you say, I don't agree with this gender fluidity shit.
Right.
Somebody takes that and automatically translates that into transphobia.
Right.
How did you make that leap from that to that? In the same way that is if a white person said, I don't understand why black people can't get their shit together. How does that automatically translate to you don't fuck with niggas?
Yeah. Or that you are in the Ku Klux Klan.
Or you're like you're racist.
Lynching black people.
There's a translation that is occurring.
Yeah.
And sometimes it ain't just, I think a lot of times especially in the black community, I think I find that white people go harder for some of this black shit than black people do. Because there's like a sensitivity to it and like, oh, I don't like that word. I don't like that. And then we've got they're walking around telling us what stuff is and what it isn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like it's better to be right. It's better to err on the side of caution. So I'm going to call some shit doing too much. I'm going to call some shit something, even if it ain't that, just so I can make sure that I'm covering all my bases.
Yeah, and it's like, no, where we are now, that you fall on either side. It's one or the other. There's no, and dog, like we always say, it's all connected. There's no separation. But if you say that you don't agree with, gender fluidity, right? That means that you're on this side with the people who ride around actively searching for people in the community to murder.
to beat up people with Adam's apples and dressing.
Exactly. That's where you land.
Even that joke could be like, I'm being transphobic or something. And
exactly. It's a joke. So that's where you land. Like there is no, and the inverse, the opposite is true. Like if you all ride for them, that means that you somehow are, that you are, or if you agree, for people who don't really agree, then that means that you walking around with a
that you with it.
Right,
exactly. And in most cases you ain't.
Not at all.
Most cases but you can't say you ain't with it because you know that automatically puts you
on the extreme.
Puts you on the extreme.
And it's extreme. It's not like I could say, hey man, you could do whatever you want to, but I don't want you teaching it to my kids. Like it's on me to do that. That's not your space. You know what I'm saying? But you can, go do.
But if you go, like there was this one dude, show where they had a transsexual come to like a second grade class or something and was reading this like children's book about transgenders. And people were like, I don't want that shit taught to my
second grade.
Second grade. Like, nah. Like, what does all this got to do? Like, and the people who stood up against it were actually called transphobic.
Exactly.
Because they were trying to stand up for what they felt their kids should be exposed to at that age.
And it was a flip side of that, dog. This is interesting. Condoleezza Rice was on
The View.
Yeah, and she was talking about critical race theory and how she was saying that, you can teach black people to love themselves and to be whatever it is they want to be without going the extra step to make white kids feel bad, right?
But that's also a translation though, because nothing in critical race theory says that.
Right, yeah.
So people are looking at that quote unquote connecting dots and doing the math and says, oh, this equals making white people feel bad.
But see, here's the thing about that, man. So you can have this sort of theory, right? And you can implement it into these spaces. But it's translated or up to people to interpret how they teach it. So they could teach it the right way. They could teach it on some completely other shit that's destructive. You know what I'm saying? I just don't think there's any, like, I don't think you need to stand on either end. I think there's always, the truth always lies in a little bit of both.
And when you, and so the truth is, the truth, and you're right. Because the truth is, motherfuckers don't know.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And the truth is, the truth hurts.
That's right. Yeah.
The truth hurts, bro.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. And sometimes, and a lot of the truth that we're talking about exposing, it hurts me to imagine that there are people out there who really feel like they don't identify with one or another. I don't understand that.
Right.
I'm not supposed to understand that.
Right.
And so my decision making can't be based on what I understand or what I don't understand.
Right.
I don't understand how my car works. But I get in that motherfucker and I start it up and I drive it and go where I need to go.
Right.
So I don't have to understand all of the nuances of this thing, but it does. But I am hurt by the fact that people exist who feel that way. I'm also hurt by the fact, it also hurts me when I think about people who use that shit to play games and to take advantage and to use, to scam and shit like that. And those are, and that's the truth.
Yep.
And so if I can't say that, if I can't say I don't understand, if I can't say I don't know, or I might say I don't agree. Is saying I don't agree the same as saying
I hate you.
I hate you. And this is something that black people are struggling with, bro, like a motherfucker.
Always for a long time.
For a long time.
Yeah.
Now the translations is a new thing.
Right, relatively.
Relatively speaking, in terms of how we talk in the public square.
Yeah.
But like black people, I'm talking about this shit like we just like this monolith that says black, but we can't, every time we hear somebody, like if somebody says that they don't want to defund the police, that don't mean they hate black people.
Right.
Like, how the fuck are you translating that? How are you getting from that to that? Some people are like, I don't believe Colin Kaepernick should kneel.
Right.
How is that translating to, I don't fuck with black people?
Yeah. Because again, dog, there's a line. And
but they're translating his shit too, though, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're translating him kneeling, but he don't fuck with United States.
Right.
Everybody's translating.
That's right.
It's ultimately weak. Why am I talking so much?
But see, it's all, so there's an action like Colin, he kneeled, right? And motherfuckers have like, and then there's a line, and they put him on this side of the line with the liberals and the and the civil rights and all of that. That's where they put him.
Mm-hmm.
So automatically, because he's on this side, the people on the other side they don't even want to understand what he's saying because he's automatically placed in this political sphere of liberals.
Yeah.
Right? So after that, just like Black Lives Matter, all that shit was immediately, boom, is on this side. So whoever's on this side, it don't matter. They just don't agree with the shit.
Yeah.
Right? And vice versa. There are things that have happened that put people squarely on this side. Not things that have happened. They've done things and someone has said, okay, this fits here. So now people on this side, like, I don't know, and sometimes it's related to some, but people choose sides, dog. No matter what the situation is, they choose a side of it that they're gonna be on. And that's based on politics and agendas and I mean, and attention, dog. It's all, None of it makes sense. Because you're not looking at the thing, you're looking at the translation of what it actually fits and what your brain is saying where you fit political and what your ideology is about whatever this thing is. Or worse than that, what somebody told you it is.
And that's what most of it is.
People said, okay, this is where this fits. So this is what we think and this is what you should think.
How many trans people do you know?
Like no?
Yeah.
Like what is no?
Nigga.
Like no, like if I see them, they know my name and they'll be like, hey, what's going on? Or no, like we
let's just go that far.
Out.
How many trans people do you know your name?
I would say about a dude that worked at the club. There was a woman that worked in a club who was trans. And then there's a dude I used to work with back in the day who was actually transitioning. So 3.
What are your relationships with them? Like, are y'all?
I mean, cool. I don't, like, when I see them, what's up? What's going on? How you? I mean, it's not even like.
You have any gay friends?
I don't know if they're gay. I guess, yeah. Well, I mean, friend is a tough word, dog.
Gay associates.
Probably. I've worked with a few. I've worked with a few.
You know they gay. They say I'm gay.
They say I'm gay. Probably about 3.
And then you got some more that you know are gay that they ain't admitting
that they ain't necessarily saying that they're gay.
So here's my challenge. Because I have gay family members, but I don't have a lot of interaction with people from that community in that way. Right. So I don't have a lot of interaction. Right. So I don't really understand. There are parts of that community that I just don't get because I'm not around it.
But let's just say, okay, let's try to flip it, right? Because I think that, so you got, let's flip it. So you got black people, right? You got different kinds of black people. You got black people who out here wilding in the street.
Yep.
You got black people who are complete intellectuals. You know what I'm saying? You got black people who do all kinds of different things. I don't understand some of the ways that they move around. You know what I'm saying? Why they do what they do, why they make the choices that they make. But the ones that I do understand, I mean, the ones that I get, you know what I'm saying? Just like, I think that's the same with that community. So you got someone who's quote unquote gay. Sometimes they don't even agree with the trans and all the rest of that agenda and the fluidity and all of that. But they just want to do what they want. They just do what they do.
But see,
they a dude.
But if we're around them, but if you interact with them, you at least have an opportunity to ask questions.
But are you asking them questions about the overall, like, that's like a white guy asking you a question about overall blackness.
At least start with the conversation.
That's true.
I don't, because I'll let you know, like, somebody meet us out at work, they don't know what our background is.
True.
And most times they're going to interact with us like we're not. So I used to work with this guy, and this was around when Baltimore, when they was doing the protests and stuff up in Baltimore.
Freddie Gray.
Yeah, and he was like, "What are they doing up there? I just don't understand that. Can you understand that? I just don't understand that." And I was like,
"Fuck you mean?
You're around more people who identify and associate and relate to them than you think."
What do you mean them?
The people in Baltimore. So
the people who were protesting, or the people who don't like the protests?
People who are protesting.
Okay.
So because when you see him, most of them was black, right? So when he see me, he don't see me in them.
That's right.
He sees me as the others.
Right.
So I had to let him know, just because of what you see doesn't mean that I don't identify with this group. So we had conversations that let him know that I'm with them.
He identified more with you as himself than he did you with them.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Because of how I present in that space.
Right.
When I'm in that space, I ain't repping Freddie Gray like that. You know, we got different conversations that we have.
Right.
So, but I had to let him, I had an opportunity to let him know, don't be so quick to judge and disassociate the people who look like them, who you're around, just because they're not acting like them.
Yeah.
This is not the space for that.
Right.
So when we most of us represent our people everywhere that we go. We just don't really have opportunities in these settings to do it.
So let me ask you this. So with the protests and the looting and just general wilding out, would you have said, I don't really agree with that either, but I get it?
If I didn't, I would have. No, I wouldn't have. Probably
you'd have just like how does that conversation look?
It depends on the white person, to be honest.
Okay.
Because I'm one of them kind of people. I always side with O.J. Simpson at work. Always. Always.
So
always.
What is that?
Now,
what is
when
that?
I'm here having a regular conversation,
you be like, he did that shit.
He did it. But like at work,
what is that, dog?
I'm trying to prove a point.
What point?
The point that I'm trying to prove is if we say the justice system works,
right,
and it's clean,
right.
If you telling me that I gotta buy the Trayvon Martin verdict,
right,
then because the system works,
right.
If you're telling me that, then I got to tell you that it works for OJ.
So is the opposite true? So if I say, if they're like OJ did it, and I'll be like, yeah, he did, and the system failed him, just like the system failed a rack of other people.
I'm not going to see. That's an argument I would never have at work.
But you would say OJ is innocent.
No, I would stick to the facts. This is what I would do. My opinion.
So somebody say, yeah, just like that OJ, I know he did it.
I'd be like, was he convicted? I'm like, I forgot. I thought my memory serves me.
I forgot.
If my memory serves me correctly, he was found not guilty. And I'm honoring that. I'm honoring all of the aspects of these laws that they say people should follow.
USA all the way.
No.
American.
No. What I'm saying is I'm following facts. Going into all of the other shit.
Right.
And I'll follow the facts that are agreeable. I ain't about to bring some shit from Dr. Sebi and try to no. Like these are them kind of conversations I stay away from at work. But I guess my point is it depends on the white person that I'm talking to and how open they are. Because some of them are really just trying to see what you know.
Yep.
And I'm always trying to see what white people know.
Right.
I care more about that in those kind of settings than I do letting them know what I know as it relates to that. And the minute I figure out and kind of have an idea of what your orientation is, then I'll choose whether or not to open up and share and challenge and debate and all of that old kind of shit. But I just don't move into all of the spaces talking about Dr. Sebi and Rizza Islam. Like I hold off on that.
At work.
Yeah.
At work. Imagine that. Dog, I don't think you would last a week.
Like I got a Farrakhan tattoo. Like I don't open that up.
Nah.
No, I'm kidding. I ain't got no. But I don't remember how we got on that.
So with the LGBT whatever, you wouldn't have that conversation at work.
I would.
Like, what would you ask?
At work, I'm generally always coming from a question standpoint. So I would have questions. I'm naturally a curious motherfucker. Like,
what would you ask?
I don't know. It depends on how the not ain't like as soon as I see him, I'll be like, hey, you mind if I sit down and ask you an hour, spend an hour with you about what it's like being gay or trans? But I would pepper the conversations. I would ask them to go out to lunch. I would want to get to know them. I would be genuinely interested in trying to get to know them. But that's naturally with anybody. I wouldn't exclude myself from being around them. I don't exclude myself from nobody.
Right.
So in trying to get to move around, like if I met a trans person at work and I'm like, that's a motherfucking asshole.
Right.
And I don't feel like they a good person.
Right.
Then I'm gonna try to limit my interaction. But if I feel like they cool,
yeah.
But it's like that with anybody. If I feel like they cool, then like, yeah, man, let's go.
Oh, a woman.
You wanna go to lunch or something? And then while we sitting down having lunch, I'd be like, how was the process? How was the process getting hired here? Did you get any? But I would do that with a woman. If I was talking to a woman, like, oh, how was the process coming on board?
Yeah, that's wild, man, because I think it's always, and I think we do it too, as the black people as a whole. Like if in these professional settings at work, we feel like if somebody don't like us, it's because we black, not because we're assholes. And I think that translates into all these other areas. Like if you did have a coworker who was trans, and you didn't really hang out with them, or you didn't feel like necessary to whatever, then they could translate that into meaning that they don't like me because I'm trans. And now is that because they've had so much? Because I know that black people, dog, a lot of times we can sense when someone is like, you know what I'm saying? Where like this, something about him, he don't, But does that get muddy if we're just assholes and they just don't like us because we're assholes?
And sometimes I think it's a lack of familiarity, man. I read a statistic somewhere that said 70 or 80% of white people only hang, live, and work around other white people.
That's true.
In the country.
Yep.
So very rarely, I'm generally the only black person, maybe like another black person out of like a group of people in my professional settings. Yep. And so that's rare. Yep. And it's rare for it to be my kind of black. Right. Where I'm going in, I'm speaking my truth on whatever that shit is. Right. I'm being direct. Right. And I'm also, I'm not shying too much away from the fact that I'm black. Right. Like that's just not something. It's who I am. So right. I try to be as authentic as I can. Right. Unlike some blacks that I've seen who go into these spaces and are like, they try to be everything else but who they are. And then they come to me and act completely different. I'm like, nah, motherfucker, you act like that around these other motherfuckers. Don't come over here and be like, hey, what's up, bro? And then when you go there, hey, guy, like, no. Now I'm questioning you. Right. Right. Like you don't get points with me because you can dap me up. You get points from me if you can dap them up. Right.
Right. And there's dog, and that's true because, I've like every job I've had, dog, I've been either the only black dude in the space, one of very few, like 2 or 3, and I can also tell when you're interacting with other people that they just don't know, they just are uncomfortable around black people because they don't know, they've never been around them, so they don't know what to expect. But they also have what's in their mind from media what a black person is. Yep. Or from, when they're riding to work or riding, you know what I'm saying, or going out or whatever, and they see, black people acting, whatever, they have that in their mind because they don't have day-to-day interactions like you just said. So when they're talking to you, they really don't know, they don't know what to do.
And that ignorance can be translated to us as if they don't like
exactly.
it. And sometimes we're wrong. Yep. And as a black man in these spaces, I gotta accept the fact that sometimes I'm translating the wrong shit. Right. And I have to make sure that what it is that I'm translating isn't everybody's reality. It's just mine.
Right.
And I can't make somebody else, I can't make the reality that I'm creating other people.
Right.
And so if they're feeling that in that space, I mean, think about how odd it is, and I'm not using odd in a negative way, to sit down at a place and like you're working with a transgender person and you see someone who's clearly a man, but they're dressed like a woman. And you have to act like you don't see that disconnect.
Right.
And since you have to act like you don't see it, you gonna look wild as a motherfucker because it's like, and they'll be like, damn, what's wrong with him? Am I the only one looking at this motherfucker? He looks like a guy, but he's dressed like a woman, and I have to call him a woman. I have to use the proper pronouns. I have to do all these things. And then I have to act like I have no struggle with that. Right. And the minute I have a struggle, it's pointed out as a phobia or you being anti something.
Right. But so like anything, dog. And I try to, and I shouldn't, and let me put this disclaimer out there. I gotta be 100% with this. I in no way
you hear
think
that? 100%.
Yeah, I in no way think that the struggle of black people in this country and the struggle of LGBT community in this country are the same, equal, or similar. I think they're completely different, two different things, right?
Okay.
So let's put that out there first. But in terms of this conversation, that they relate in the sense that there are white people who don't know how to interact with black people. They don't, which is silly. It's 2021, and you can't interact with a person, and they're just a person, right? But if a white person came to me and said to me, "Look, man, I don't know a lot of black people. I don't know, like, if there's things that I should say, shouldn't say. Can we sit down and chop that up?" I respect that, to sit down and say, okay, you know, I'm just a dude. Like, we can just kick it. We ain't know, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. And I respect that. And I'm pretty sure if the same thing happened with a trans, if you say, look, man, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm confused. I don't know. Can we sit down and chop this up? So we can have clarity, so we can have a better working relationship, right? And I'm almost certain that they will respect that enough to be like, cool.
But what would it take to get there?
To get to what? The conversation?
To that, hey man, you fumbled some shit all the way. If that was a football field, you were just fumbling like a motherfucker till you got to that point. Right. And think about how they were reacting to your fumbles.
Right.
Think about how we react to white fumbles.
Yeah, that's right.
And then when they finally do get to that point, because there's so much accommodating that we have to do through that process to where it gets there. Because we're not going to be the ones that go to them and be like, hey, man, you want to sit down and have a conversation with a black person for the first time so we can knock this shit out? We ain't going to do that. Right. We're going to be like, it's that motherfucker's problem. I'm good.
Right, exactly.
You know, and then you just sit there and watch him fumble. And
laugh
depending on what his role is. Because if he's like in management or the VP or something, motherfucker, you can't fumble too much because that's cheese doodles you fumbling. So it just depends on where that person fumbling is. Right. But a peer... I think you can have a little bit more, and depending on what what the dynamics are, we're a little bit more open. But if we can't be honest with those things, is when the challenge comes. Right. Because there's a certain amount of discomfort that I feel when you can't be honest about it.
And their experience, dog, as an individual is different as the experience of the community in totality, in general. They have their own unique experience, takes, ideas about who they are and what's happening around them, just like you do as a black dude. Like you might have a conversation with them and come to an understanding, but that don't mean that applies across the board.
And it never will, right? Right. Because you know you can only tackle the obstacle that really is in front of you. And who knows? So like if I go and have that conversation, I get to come back and have that conversation with you. Right. Oh man, because we had a conversation about Indian people one time. And I was like, I've been in that culture. Right. I've been around them people. I've been to their country. Right. And I spent a considerable amount of time giving my relationships. And so like the outside in looking at those people is a completely different lens than if you've been around them. They come off as they arrogant. They come off as they could be, racist and a bunch of other shit. And it's like when you're in it and get to observe it, it's a different, once you understand it, you don't see it as that.
They are, but I'm gonna let you live on it.
All right. I can't, hey man. I'm gonna let you live on that one. I can't change. I can't tell your story.
Let me.
Nah, you was cool. You said it strong. It's cool.
No.
All Indians are racist. You said it. You said it. It's cool.
I'm gonna say, in that particular circumstance, and on that particular night, in that particular event, that's what that was.
You were wrong, dog.
Nah,
bro. That woman was not racist.
Come on, man.
She was not racist.
How you know?
Because that was you just being sensitive.
No.
You translated some shit that was bro, this is what we talking about though. This is precisely that. If you were to sit and ask that woman, she would be like, of course not. And you would say, I don't give a fuck what you say. You were being racist.
So you're saying,
and you would say she didn't know she was being racist.
So you're saying that there's no possibility that she was racist.
I'm saying that in my experience with the amount of Indian people that I've known and know their culture, that has nothing to do, I don't want to say nothing, that the probability of that being about race is extremely low. That's all I'm saying. So and until I had that interaction with them, I would have thought what you thought. But that's a lack of being, it's like in our culture and like the way we move, the way we talk, some people construe that shit as us being assholes or mean or something like this. And we like, it's just the way we talk. Like, this is just who we are. And then once you get around them, you be like, oh, well, that's just how they talk. That's just how Indians talk to each other.
Dog.
But this is what I'm saying.
So all I'm saying is this. That could be true. But she could also be a racist. She not a racist is a strong word, because I don't even like that word really. She could also have responded in the way that she responded because she saw that I was black.
She could have.
That's all I'm saying.
She could have. Yeah.
Or she could have, so you're saying that she could have responded the way that she responded because that's how they respond to each other. That's how they respond.
And what I'm saying is the way we interpret it is going to be based on what our level of interaction is with that community. I spent a lot of time, right? So my interpretation would have been one thing, and it still could have ended up being right because I'm black, right? I could be just as wrong, but what I'm saying is my interpretation at that time, my walk away from that would be different because of how much interaction I have with the Indian community. Right. It's just, I wouldn't think about it the way that you did, but that doesn't mean I would be right though either.
Right. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is, dog.
Cause who ever gonna be right about some shit like that? Ain't too many people walking around saying they racist, bro. Very few. But racism still exists and it's still being perpetuated. So obviously it's a lot of motherfuckers who are doing it who don't know that they doing it.
But like I said, dog, racism, racist.
Or because your skin color.
Right. She was racist, dog.
So this is a part. So this that's a good example of the translation. So it's we are translating these experiences and what people are saying into something that is becoming our reality form. And a lot of what we are translating has more to do with us than it does the thing that we're translating. Sometimes it's just that. Sometimes it's the other thing too, But sometimes it's literally just that. So when people are listening to Dave Chappelle and Dave Chappelle comes back and says, oh, I wasn't trying to be transphobic, they be like, fuck you are. Just like when you said, yeah, that lady was racist. Yeah, the lady was doing that because I was black. Of course she was. Motherfucker, like, what other conclusion could you draw?
I'm not saying, well,
I guarantee you would draw a different conclusion. If you would be experiencing the same thing, but if you had the experience I had with them, you would draw a different conclusion.
But yeah, I might draw, but that doesn't necessarily mean, again, all I'm saying is, dog, after our conversation about it, right? I got it. And I've seen that too. And I've had other people tell me that about, culturally, how, competitive and how whatever, culturally. And this is really a harsh conversation about a whole, a billion people, just putting them all in one, but whatever. But I also know, like, and this is what rounds about what we talked about before. When black people experience something, right? There's a sense that we know, like, the look and the energy that's given off. And again, we could be wrong. We could be oversensitive because we've experienced so much that we kind of lump everything in there. But, dog, there is a possibility that she could have looked at me and be like, how dare he, as who he is, try to be nice. and so if we take that, and you're right, we'll never know, right? Especially with that Indian babe. We'll never know. So what speaks is what our interpretation of it was. Right.
And if you get space to say what that is, the trans people get space to translate Dave's shit. And the question then becomes, what do we do? What do people get to do when there's so much translating going on? We're translating all of these interactions and experiences and statements and jokes, bro. We're translating it all. So on some level, you have to, right? Because that's how you communicate. But we're translating shit that people are saying isn't there. Dave is saying it's not even there. And the trans people are saying, yeah, it is. That Indian babe would be like, it's not even there. And life would be like, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
Why? Because of that look. Because of that feeling. And I know that feeling. I know that look. And you 100%, you 100% real and right with your perspective on that. The same way that these transes are 100% real and right in their feelings. And they saying, Dave is saying that ain't there. Dave is saying that it ain't there. And they're saying, yeah, it is. So we can't see what they see.
Nah, I disagree with that, because there's a lot of shit in the game for the Dave thing. It's a lot of people saying that it is, and then a lot of other people just agreeing with it because that's their community or that's their point of view.
Bro,
like somebody says, hey, you should think this, and they think it. With me, I was in a direct interaction with this person. Mm-hmm. So that is me and her having an interaction that she communicated something to me directly. She wasn't talking about, black people in general. She was communicating something to me directly that that
you translated into race. That was racial. That was race specific.
No, I just recognized what it was for what it was.
So
but Dave is saying what he said was he didn't address anybody specifically in that sort of in that sort of way. He made jokes.
That woman didn't address you specifically.
Yeah, she
you
did.
asked her a question and she responded.
That's addressing me specifically. Who else she addressed?
Your interpretation is the address. She could have responded to that like that to anybody. But see, here's what we're gonna get. I don't want to get caught. The translation is still the translation. Your life experience is what's causing you to translate that. If you got a motherfucker from Aborigines from somewhere else who just started learning English and he got that, he wouldn't interpret that as that. Like there's a set of shit that you interpreting as that. That's you.
Nah, that it was what it was. I read that correctly.
Okay.
So if trans
trans people are saying they read it correctly.
They're not.
But see,
that's the reality.
Then you didn't. Then you didn't read yours correctly.
No, I read mine correctly.
See.
I was there, dog. I was in the moment.
Then how can you tell them they didn't read it correctly? He's talking about trans people.
But he didn't say anything like, he didn't directly say, well, I don't know, dog.
No,
I don't know.
That woman did not say, no, you black bastard.
She might as well have. She was thinking it.
She said, no.
No, she said more than that, dog.
What'd she say? Go ahead.
I don't even remember.
Exactly.
I don't even remember. You brought it up.
It was the way she said it. She hurt your feelings. That's what it was. This Indian lady at CBS hurt his feelings. He didn't like his feelings hurt. Hey man, she hurt your feelings. I was trying to be nice, dog. See, but that's what it. See, this what
I was reaching out across ethnicity and race to be, even though I've had multiple experiences where they've treated me less than.
She hurt your feelings.
But even I rose above it and said, I'm going to make this gesture to this woman, and she was just rude. You know what I'm saying?
But why can't she be rude? Why she got to be racist?
She could be both.
But why she have to be both?
Can't she be both?
Only thing you can prove is she was rude. You adding race onto it. You could have just said that bitch was rude, but you didn't say that. When we talked, what did you say? That bitch was racist.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, y'all.
This is the last episode. I'd like to thank everybody for.
Yeah, we about to get deplatformed and canceled. We about to get the alphabet boys and girls on us. The alphabet theys. We about to get hit up by the theys.
It's on.
One they or many theys.
It's gonna be all of them, and
the Indian theys,
South Asian. We ready to get it all, dog.
We about to get the Punjabi theys.
She was rude and possibly racist. Can we leave it at that?
So look how long we had to take to get there.
Now
we had to have, and
I still don't agree, but
it's all clean.
I'm willing to.
Even if you wanted to walk around and say all Indian people are racist, you'd be within your right. You're gonna be alone, but. This is the challenge though, dude, I feel like, for real, all jokes aside. Because when you feel it's something that is, not all of them people out there protesting against Dave are legit, but there are some motherfuckers out there, statistically speaking, mathematically speaking, I'd be an idiot to think that no people out there really feel hurt. A percentage of people out there do feel the way that they say they feel. I don't know the number.
But that percentage is even less because they feel the way that they feel based on what somebody else said about what he said. Not necessarily watching it and feeling off of what he actually said.
So I'm speaking to the person who feels the way you do. That's who I'm addressing.
Okay.
The bullshit motherfuckers out there who's being led, who feel like Dave was talking to them.
Right.
The same way you felt that woman was talking directly to you.
Well, she was talking directly.
So I'm thinking about that person who feels just as strongly as you do about what what Dave did on that special.
Okay.
The translating. And so how does that person move through that to see something more that is there? there are levels and layers to that shit that he was talking about.
Right.
The thing that they're picking on
Right.
is really a reflection. I'm not saying it's not there as an example. In the same way that I can't say that what you said with the Indian babe, like there's other shit there.
Right.
There's a gang of other shit there.
Very true.
How can one piece be the only piece you focus on?
Right.
And maybe the fact that that one piece is something that you're focusing on, maybe that's where the work is. And figuring out why am I so, there was a lot of other shit that this motherfucker said.
Right. Right. That's clean. That's clean.
There's a gang of shit that motherfucker said.
Yeah.
You gonna just literally negate the fact that he's set up a trust fund for this woman's child?
Yeah.
You gonna negate that? You gonna negate the fact that he spent time with her and developed a relationship with her? You gonna negate the fact that her people is backing this motherfucker up? You gonna negate the fact that y'all dragged this woman through the motherfucking mud?
Yeah.
And a few days later, she did something to herself. Like all of that goes away, and the focus is just on this shit.
Right.
It's a million fucking points in that story.
And the fact that overall what he was saying was that you cannot make a joke about trans or gay people, but you can say all kinds manner of offensive and derogatory things about black and white people, and you good.
Yeah.
That was his overall point.
Yeah.
And that, and he made that point through making very sort of,
Yeah.
He made jokes about trans
Caitlyn Jenner can change her gender. It's
Right.
easier for Caitlyn Jenner to change her gender than it is for Cassius Clay to change his name.
Right.
Like,
Right.
you can't sit and think about that.
Exactly. And that was the overall point, more so than the jokes that he was making about, trans people.
Caitlyn Jenner becomes Woman of the Year.
Yeah.
Her first year of being a woman, and you can't think about that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you're for that. Can
Right.
you think about the other people that impacts, the other side?
Right. Right. And you know what's funny, dog? I had this project I was on a couple years back, pre-COVID, and they had like a mandatory meeting where they talked about signatures and how we change the pronouns in your signature. And so one dude, white dude did kind of, he was like, well, I don't think it's fair. He just went and just had a contract, he was just like, I don't think it's fair that we have to sort of have these conversations when, because his point was the impact on women.
Mm.
And nobody heard his point. His point was valid. You know what I'm saying? His question was valid. Nobody heard that. They all sort of rallied around. And again, dog, what it boils down to is somebody has an opinion that's popular. And if you go against that opinion, then you sit on the side. And now you're the same guy that's in the pickup truck out hunting for, for dudes holding hands to beat them up. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, shout out to Dave.
We got to be careful about how we translating, man.
Yeah.
And what we're doing with the translation. And remember that a lot of that has to do is a projection of us. It's not necessarily, it's not always the thing that we're translating. It's us.
Right.
When your lady is telling you some shit, she's telling you a bunch of shit.
Right.
Like the conversation we were having the one day when we were like triggers.
Right.
And you said, one of the things is yours. So motherfucker say a whole bunch of shit, and then they can say you gotta do better.
Right.
And it's like the minute you hear that term, that translates into something.
Yeah. And it's attached to other shit.
And it's attached to a gang of other shit that we project onto them for causing the trigger.
Right.
Not realizing that the fact that it is a trigger means something.
Right.
What does it mean? And maybe if we use that as a path to understanding, as opposed to a path to separate and get in these war postures with one another, because that only that only produces more violence.
Right.
Not necessarily physical violence, but like emotional and all of this other shit. It keeps you disconnected, more conflict.
Yep.
But if you triggered, man, that trigger is saying something.
Yeah, yep. And that's what you got to deal with. I mean, that's on you to deal with. I mean, your trigger is your trigger. Nobody else. You can't expect people to avoid your trigger because it's your trigger. It's
but we do, bro.
We do.
And we got to be clean with that.
Yeah.
Like if we avoiding that, if you are avoiding the fact that you don't like when somebody says you got to do better.
Yeah.
So everybody you fuck with now can't say you got to do better.
Or I'm coming off the ropes on that.
Then you ain't gonna be better.
That's right. It's not that, dog. It's about understanding that is connected to some other shit that I need to get through
to be better.
To be better, right?
So if everybody got to stop, if everybody around you can't say you got to do better, like that, because that path, that trigger leads to understanding, which leads to expansion, which leads to you knowing yourself more wholly and accepting yourself more wholly.
Right.
So if people can't do that, then there's a part of you there that's not being addressed.
Right.
And it's the same, like if a motherfucker can't say a trans joke, why the fuck is that a problem?
Right.
If somebody can't say a black joke, why the fuck is that a problem?
Yeah.
For real though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't give a fuck about your joke. This motherfucker's out here getting harmed and getting all this other shit. Well, that's how that gets there. No, it don't, motherfucker.
Nah.
We sit up here all the time and say this rap music is just words and this and that. It don't, like, come on, man. Either this shit is connected or it ain't.
Right. Right. Right.
Women can walk around here, wear whatever the fuck they want to wear, do whatever they want to do, and say that shit is disconnected from every motherfucking thing else, and that's just that motherfucking expression. If you trigger by seeing a woman twerk and do all of this other shit, and we saying that I don't know. I'm off from the rant. I don't know.
Yeah, dog. It's been fun, dog. We ready to get canceled after this, so.
I appreciate you, bro. Hey, at least we left out on a bang. We told the trans to check the translations. We told the blacks to check the translations.
Yeah. Indians. We offended everybody, dog. All in one joint.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you,
And
bro.
if you got offended, that's a trigger. Go figure out why the fuck you offended and leave us alone. Shit. Appreciate you, dog.
All right, dog.
All right, peace.